I'm really encouraged to see the way coaching is evolving into something much more modern and dynamic. We've left behind those old school, rigid schemes, and now we're witnessing offenses that move with more creativity and fluidity. The days of just lining up and waiting for a play to unfold are giving way to motion-heavy approaches, where players are constantly shifting, creating confusion and mismatches for the defense. It reminds me a bit of that Schottenheimer era when teams started experimenting with more motion and pre-snap movement to open up options. I hope this trend continues because having a creative offense isn't just exciting to watch, it actually forces defenses to adjust in real time, making the game more unpredictable and fun. I remember when I first saw some of these ideas under coaches like Kellen Moore, and it felt like a breath of fresh air, but then it seemed like that momentum fizzled out for a bit when Moore's influence waned. Now, I'm cautiously optimistic. I've seen these sparks before only to watch them die down. So I'm hoping this time the creative approach sticks and evolves as the season progresses. Honestly, I'm not just hoping to see it in the early months, I want to see it sustained deep into the season, when teams are really battling for playoff positioning and every single play counts. It's like expecting fireworks on New Year's Eve, but then having to wait until the 4th of July to get the real show. But hey, that's just my hope, shaped a bit by past disappointments. When it comes to players, there's one name that often comes up in trade talks, and that's Micah Parsons. His value on the market is a hot topic right now, and understandably so. One more year of underperformance could really drag his trade stock down, which would be a huge blow for a player who's been such a dynamic force on defense. I see him as something like Taco 2.0, a player with immense potential and impact, but whose future hinges heavily on how this season unfolds. Some people expressed doubts about certain aspects of how Micah has been handled, especially with the Cowboys management swinging between asking him to drop weight and then bolt back up. That kind of back and forth isn't ideal for any athlete's development. Stability is key, and constantly changing a player's physical build can mess with performance and confidence. There's no doubt he's got concerns around him, but despite all that, his trade value right now isn't sky high. If the Cowboys were to try trading him, the best they could hope for would probably be a mid-to late third-round pick, not exactly what you want for a player of his caliber. Realistically, a trade involving him would only make sense if it's part of a swap with another player who's also been disappointing, something along the lines of the Kelvin Joseph deal. Otherwise, given the Cowboys' thin depth on the defensive line, it might be smarter to just keep fingers crossed that Micah turns things around this year. Personally, I'm not overly confident about that happening, but the risk of losing him for a low return is something the Cowboys have to weigh carefully. There's also been chatter about swapping Micah Parsons for Quinnen Williams, which raises some interesting questions. Does it make sense to trade away a strength to cover a weakness? I get the idea behind flipping an edge rusher for a defensive tackle. Teams do that all the time to balance their roster, but trading your best player for someone else just because it fits a positional need, that's a tougher sell. Micah Parsons is clearly the better player compared to Quinnen Williams. No matter how good Quinnen is, the two of them paired with someone like Osa Odiazua might shore things up on the interior, but it wouldn't necessarily make the defense better overall. In fact, trading away Parsons could actually weaken the Cowboys' edge rush, which has been one of their strengths. With the Jets holding onto the first-round picks at edge, they're not likely to give up much for Micah, especially since they have to pay big contracts to players like Sauce Gardner and Garrett Wilson. Both sides might just decide it's better to keep their core players rather than making a costly trade. For the Cowboys, it might just be simpler and wiser to invest in keeping Parsons and building around him rather than breaking up one of their biggest assets. I'm curious where you would rank Micah Parsons among all defensive players in the NFL right now. Is he top 5, top 10? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because this guy's impact on the field is undeniable. Then there's the situation with Tyler Booker losing his starting job. Well, sort of. It's more accurate to say that Robert Jones took over for a day or so during practice, but it didn't last. From what I've gathered, it seems the Cowboys coaching staff was dealing with a rookie wall feeling from Jones, so they switched back to Booker with the first team pretty quickly. Unfortunately, Jones then suffered a broken bone in his neck during practice, which will sideline him for a few weeks. So, Booker really didn't lose the job permanently. It was more like a temporary shuffle due to injury and practice performance. These kinds of shifts happen all the time in the NFL. especially when teams are managing young players and trying to figure out the best combinations. It's a reminder of how fragile player roles can be and how injuries throw a wrench into team plans. The recent contract extension for Jake Ferguson is another move worth discussing. On one hand, locking up a player early like that can be a smart strategy. If you wait too long, the market tends to inflate, and you end up paying a premium for guys who have proven themselves. The Cowboys seem to have a pattern of doing these early deals for players who are solid contributors, but maybe not superstars yet. They did it with Jalen Smith, Terrence Steele, Trayvon Diggs, and others, getting them signed before their value spikes to high. It's a way to control costs while keeping good talent on the roster. Ferguson's deal is a clear win for Dak Prescott as well, because having a reliable tight end he knows and trusts makes a difference on offense. Getting ahead of the market like this shows confidence in the player and can be team-friendly down the line, especially if the market for tight ends plateaus or drops a bit. These moves demonstrate that the Cowboys are willing to invest in stability, even if it means paying a bit earlier than some teams might. It's a balancing act, but it's one that can pay off if the evaluations are accurate. Speaking of contracts, the situation with someone like Trevon Diggs or other corners raises some interesting questions too. There's debate about whether Diggs is better playing in the slot or on the outside. He's shown he can do both, but his best season was mostly spent on the outside, where he racked up interceptions and pick sixes. Some argue he's more effective in the nickel, but I'm hesitant to say he's strictly better in one spot. His versatility is part of what makes him valuable. That said, contract negotiations get complicated when you start factoring in position-specific pay. Outside corners generally command higher salaries than slot corners, so if a player's best fit is nickel, that could impact what the team offers. The Cowboys might want to offer nickel money, but will he accept it? Finding a middle ground is tricky, and that's the kind of negotiation that can define a player's future with the team. The nuances of where a player lines up on the field can affect contract talks in ways that fans don't always realize. Looking ahead, the cornerback market is something the Cowboys are definitely monitoring. Free agent options like Stephon Gilmore might still be available, but it's likely the team will wait to see how their young corners perform in training camp and preseason before making any big moves. Gilmore's signing could happen later in the offseason, depending on how everything shakes out. Meanwhile, the draft looms as an opportunity to bolster the position. The Cowboys have to weigh whether corner is their biggest need, or if other areas demand more urgent attention. Players like Avon Terrell from Clemson are on the radar, but it's too early to predict who exactly will be the pick. The draft is where all these questions get answered, and the Cowboys will be looking for value and potential to improve their secondary for the long haul. When it comes to the future of defensive linemen like Mazi Smith, the outlook is a bit uncertain. The Cowboys face a decision on whether to pick up his fifth-year option, and right now it doesn't look likely unless he makes a significant leap this season. His development so far hasn't justified a long-term commitment yet, and the team will be watching closely before pulling the trigger. That decision will come next spring, but the signs aren't promising at this moment. Meanwhile, Madden simulations and fan predictions about playoff curses or early exits add an extra layer of drama, but those are more fun and speculation than anything definitive. The real story is how the team performs on the field, week after week, under the bright lights. All of these moving parts, the coaching evolution, player development, contract strategies, injury management, and draft prospects, paint a complex picture of a team trying to navigate the ups and downs of a competitive NFL season. It's a balancing act of managing talent, finances, and expectations while always keeping an eye on the ultimate goal, winning games and making a deep playoff run. But before we continue, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. Your support helps us keep bringing you the latest updates on the Dallas Cowboys. Feel free to share your thoughts on the news in the comments as well. In a move that has set the NFL rumor mill ablaze, whispers are growing louder that Green Bay Packers quarterback Jordan Love could be heading to the Dallas Cowboys. Though nothing has been confirmed by either team or the player himself, insiders are suggesting that a deal has been quietly finalized behind closed doors. If true, this would be one of the most surprising quarterback shakeups in recent NFL memory. Love, who was drafted by the Packers in 2020 and took over as starter after Aaron Rodgers' departure, seemed to be settling into his role as Green Bay's franchise quarterback. But murmurs of dissatisfaction behind the scenes, paired with Strategic long-term planning by the Packers front office may have opened the door for an unprecedented shift. While Dallas still has Dak Prescott under contract, speculation suggests the team could be eyeing Love as their long-term future, possibly indicating that they might be ready to move on from Prescott sooner than expected. For now, the NFL remains in suspense as fans, analysts, and insiders attempt to decipher the truth behind this shocking development. The potential ripple effects of such a move could redefine the power balance in both the NFC North and NFC East. Adding to the intrigue is the timing of the rumored deal. Training camps are in full swing, and teams are finalizing their depth charts. The Cowboys have remained notably quiet during the offseason, with many assuming they were placing all their faith in Dak Prescott heading into the 2025 season. However, with this latest rumor, that narrative has been thrown into chaos. Jordan Love's breakout performances in 2024 showcase his ability to lead an offense with composure, athleticism, and a growing command of the game. If Dallas truly has managed to land Love, it could mean a radical shift in their offensive philosophy. The idea of bringing in a younger, mobile quarterback with a live arm might be Jerry Jones' way of injecting new energy into a roster that has often fallen short in the playoffs. Sources close to the situation hint that negotiations may have started as early as the NFL Combine, with key figures from both organizations meeting privately. Whether this was merely exploratory or a sign of deeper plans in motion, it's hard to ignore how real the talk has become in recent days. Fans are now left wondering if a new era is indeed dawning for America's team, while skeptics argue that this could all be off-season noise meant to distract or generate headlines. Several credible NFL insiders have reportedly confirmed that at least preliminary discussions did occur. The idea that Jordan Love could willingly leave a starting position in Green Bay may seem puzzling at first glance, but internal reports suggest that tensions had been rising between the quarterback and coaching staff over scheme decisions and personnel choices. Dallas, always eager to make a splash, could have seen this as a perfect opportunity to snatch a rising star. While his value was still climbing, for the Packers, moving on from Love would be bold, but it might align with their pattern of unconventional, yet forward-thinking moves, especially if they're already targeting a replacement in next year's draft or free agency. In Dallas, the potential addition of Love raises even more questions about Dak Prescott's future. Could he be traded, benched, restructured into a backup role? The implications are staggering, and fans on both sides are demanding answers. Yet, the silence from both camps only fuels the belief that something monumental is unfolding behind the scenes. The NFL is no stranger to blockbuster trades and controversial decisions, but the idea of Jordan Love suiting up in a Cowboys uniform takes shock value to another level. It's not just about talent, it's about narrative. Love's rise from understudy to starter in Green Bay was already a compelling story. Transferring that momentum to the most scrutinized team in professional football would elevate his profile tenfold. For Dallas, bringing in a quarterback who is not only younger but also hungry to prove himself in a bigger spotlight could reinvigorate a franchise desperate for postseason success. And let's not ignore the business side of it all. Love in Cowboys blue could mean skyrocketing jersey sales, surging ticket demand, and revitalized national interest. Whether or not this move materializes, it has already become a hot topic on talk shows, social media, and among NFL analysts. Every camera will be pointed at the Cowboys camp in the coming days, looking for signs subtle or overt that validate the rumor. If true, the move would echo for years as one of the boldest gambits in Cowboys history, perhaps even reshaping how we remember both Jordan Love's career and Dak Prescott's legacy. Ultimately, the rumored acquisition of Jordan Love by the Dallas Cowboys remains just that, a rumor, but even unconfirmed, the sheer magnitude of the possibility is enough to shift conversations across the league. Coaches, players, and front offices are undoubtedly watching closely, knowing how one quarterback move can change an entire season or a franchise. For Green Bay, letting go of Love would be a significant risk, possibly signaling a rebuild or a pivot toward a different defensive philosophy. For Dallas, it's a potential statement that they are no longer content with merely making the playoffs. They want to win now, and they're willing to shake the very foundation of their team to do so. Fans, meanwhile, are caught between disbelief and anticipation, as every new whisper adds fuel to an already raging firestorm of speculation. Until an official statement is made, the NFL will remain on edge, but whether this rumor proves to be Smoke or fire, one thing is certain, the name Jordan Love has never carried more weight. And his next chapter, whether in Green Bay, Dallas, or somewhere else, promises to be one of the most watched stories in the league. That's it for this update. If you enjoyed the video and want to keep receiving exclusive news about the Dallas Cowboys, please subscribe to our channel and give this video a like. We always look forward to your comments and opinions. See you in the next video.